The alien sky burned red as firestorms tore through cities, swallowing towers whole. The once proud capital of the Varine Empire now lay in ruin. People screamed in the streets, their faces covered in ash, their voices drowned by the sound of collapsing steel. The air smelled of smoke, fear, and something far worse, defeat. High above the dying world, the last surviving ships tried to escape orbit, but one by one, they vanished into clouds of flame. In the control bunker deep beneath the capital, Commander Sareth watched the chaos on the holoscreens, his trembling hand gripping the edge of the console. "We've lost communication with the southern continent," said his aide, her voice shaking. "The cities are gone, Commander. There's nothing left to defend." Sareth stared at the screen, seeing the enemy fleet spreading like a black storm across the stars. "Then there is only one thing left to do," he whispered. "Send the distress signal to everyone, everywhere." The aide froze. "Even to them?" Sareth hesitated. The thought of calling humanity, the Deathworlders, made his heart pound. For centuries, the galaxy had whispered about them. Savage survivors from a cursed planet, beings who thrived in conditions no other life could endure. But desperation left no room for pride. "Yes," he said finally. "Even to them." Across the stars, the signal was sent, a message filled with terror and desperation. "To any who can hear us, please, we beg you, save us." Days passed with no answer. The Galactic Council received the call, but quickly dismissed it. In their grand chambers, alien diplomats argued, their jeweled robes glowing in the light of the crystal ceiling. "Why should we help the Varine?" One scoffed. "They were arrogant. They brought this upon themselves." Another nodded. "And if we send aid, that enemy will come for us next." No, we let them fall. The vote was cast. The Varine were abandoned. But deep in a quiet corner of the galaxy, on a blue planet surrounded by silver satellites, a single screen blinked to life. Inside a massive underground facility, old machines began to hum. Warning lights flashed red. The signal had been received by Earth. A human operator leaned closer to his console. "Sir, you'll want to see this." His superior walked over, his uniform marked with the emblem of an old wolf. He read the alien message and frowned. "The Varine Empire," he muttered. "They're begging for help?" The operator nodded. Council ignored it. "But it came through our old distress relay, the same one we left connected after the ban." The man's expression darkened. Humanity had not forgotten the day they were exiled from the Galactic Council. They had walked away quietly, building in silence, watching from the shadows. "Patch it through to command," he said. "Let's see if the High Admiral wants to wake the fleet." On the other side of the galaxy, Commander Sareth sat in the bunker, listening to static. His people were dying above ground. Every transmission brought worse news. Another city gone, another fleet destroyed. The enemy, known only as the Swarm, devoured everything. "We've lost the eastern defense grid," the aide said quietly. "The Council hasn't replied." "No one has." Sareth closed his eyes. "Then this is the end," he whispered. Suddenly the radio crackled. A strange sound cut through the static, a human voice, calm, cold, controlled. "This is Fleet Command, Terran Alliance. We received your distress call." The room froze. Every head turned to the speakers. "Is this real?" The aide gasped. "It's them," Sareth said softly, his eyes wide. "The Deathworlders," the voice continued. "We're evaluating the situation. Hold position. Evacuation protocols will be initiated." The transmission ended. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then the aide asked, "Commander, do we trust them?" Sareth stared at the cracked ceiling. Outside, the sky still burned. "Trust them?" he said, his voice trembling. "No, but we have no choice." In orbit, the last of the Varine ships drifted helplessly, their engines dead. Crews watched as the darkness beyond the system began to twist. Something was coming. The stars themselves seemed to ripple. Suddenly, the void split open, and dozens of massive ships emerged, black hulls marked with Earth's sigil. They moved with terrifying precision, forming perfect formation in seconds. A deep hum filled the air as weapons charged. On the bridge of the lead ship, Admiral Reyes stood silently, his eyes fixed on the ruined planet below. "Target acquisition complete," his officer reported. Swarm forces approaching from the far side of the system. Reyes nodded slowly. Deploy the sentinels. No survivors from the enemy fleet. Not this time. Yes, sir, the officer replied, his hands flying across the controls. From the belly of the human fleet, hundreds of smaller crafts launched, sleek, dark, silent. They disappeared into the void, leaving trails of light behind them. On the surface, Sareth's bunker began to shake. What's happening? His aide shouted. Look! Someone cried, pointing at the sky. Through the smoke and clouds, lines of burning light tore downward. Human drop pods. One after another, they crashed into the ground, shaking the earth. When the dust cleared, armored soldiers emerged. Tall, silent figures in black exosuits, their visors glowing faint blue. Sareth stared at them, unable to speak. One soldier turned to him, his voice filtered through the helmet. Commander Sareth? Yes, he stammered. You called for help, the soldier said, raising his weapon toward the sky, where dark shapes moved above the clouds. We're here to answer. High above, the human fleet opened fire. Beams of energy brighter than suns cut across space, ripping through the swarm ships like paper. The battle had begun. The Varine people, once abandoned, watched in awe as the Deathworlders unleashed their fury. Humanity had not come to negotiate. They had come to remind the galaxy what it meant to survive. And in that moment, as the sky burned once more, this time with the fire of salvation, Sareth understood the truth. The Deathworlders did not answer calls for mercy. They answered calls for war, and they never came alone. The smoke still hung over the alien world when the human soldiers began moving through the ruins, their black armor reflecting the dull red glow of distant fires. The city was broken but not silent anymore. The sound of heavy boots and mechanical drones echoed through the streets. Commander Sareth followed one of the human officers as they surveyed the damage. Your world suffered greatly, the officer said, his voice calm, filtered through his helmet. But we will not let it fall, Sareth nodded weakly. Who are you? The officer stopped and looked back. Lieutenant Kara Holt, Earth Special Command. And your leader? Sareth asked. Admiral Reyes, Kara replied. He commands the fleet above. He decides who lives and who burns. Her words made Sareth shiver. Why would your people come to help us? She turned her head slightly. We didn't come for you, she said quietly. We came for them. She pointed to the sky, where faint flashes of light showed the ongoing battle above. High in orbit, the Deathworlder fleet was a storm of steel and fire. Admiral Reyes stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Wolf's Honor, watching as the swarm ships poured through the void like living shadows. His officers moved quickly, reporting losses and positions. Sector 7 under heavy assault, one shouted. Forward batteries overheating. Reyes remained silent, his eyes locked on the holographic map. The enemy fleet was endless, dark, shifting, feeding on energy itself. They're adapting, his science officer warned. Our plasma rounds are losing effect. Reyes nodded. Then change the rules, he said coldly. Deploy the kinetic lances. The crew hesitated. Sir, those weapons are banned by the Council, one officer said nervously. Reyes turned his gaze on him. We are no longer part of their council, he said, his voice low. Fire. Moments later, giant hatches opened on the sides of the human warships. Long black spears of metal shot into the void, glowing white from acceleration. When they struck the swarm ships, the results were devastating. Entire clusters of enemy vessels exploded in silence, vanishing in a burst of light and debris. The command deck cheered, but Reyes didn't smile. They'll adapt, he said softly. They always do. Down on the planet, Kara and her squad reached what was once the Varine's main power hub. It was now a mountain of rubble, with fires burning deep within. Commander, Kara said to Sareth, what's under here? He hesitated. A core reactor, he admitted. If it ruptures, the entire continent will fall, Kara cursed under her breath. Then we need to seal it now. She turned to her squad. Send in the engineers. But as they began to move, the ground rumbled. Sareth's eyes widened. It's already collapsing. The soldiers rushed to stabilize the structure. Smoke filled the air. One engineer shouted, It's too deep! The heat's off the charts! Kara's voice cut through the chaos. Get it done, or none of us leave! Through the roar of machinery, Sareth heard something new, a strange clicking sound, like claws on metal. He looked toward a shattered doorway. Dark shapes moved inside the smoke. "Kara," he whispered. "They're here!" Before she could react, the swarm burst from the shadows. Insect-like creatures with black chitinous armor and glowing eyes flooded the corridor, moving fast, screeching. "Open fire!" Kara shouted. Her squad unleashed bright streams of energy, cutting the creatures apart. The smell of burning acid filled the air, but for every one that fell, 2 more appeared. "We're being overrun!" one soldier cried. Kara fired back, pulling Sareth behind a metal wall. "We hold!" she shouted. "If we fall, the core explodes." Above the planet, Admiral Reyes watched the tactical display. Red alerts spread through the map like blood. "Ground team's under attack," his aide said. Reyes' jaw tightened. "Send reinforcements. All units are engaged, sir." "Then I'll send mine." Reyes turned and left the bridge. The officers stared in silence. No one argued when the Admiral himself walked to the hangar. Minutes later, a black dropship launched from the flagship, engines roaring as it dove into the planet's atmosphere. In the chaos below, Kara's ammunition counter flashed red. "Out of rounds!" she yelled. A soldier beside her threw a grenade, blowing 3 creatures apart. The rest kept coming. Sareth grabbed a fallen weapon, trying to help. His hands shook. "They're too many!" he cried. "Then we take them with us," Kara said through gritted teeth. She turned to her last soldier. "Detonate the emergency charge!" Before he could, the roof split open with a thunderous blast. A dark figure dropped from the sky, surrounded by flame and smoke. Reyes landed in the center of the corridor, his armor gleaming with blue fire. He raised his arm, and an energy pulse burst outward, vaporizing the swarm in seconds. Silence followed. Kara lowered her weapon. "Sir," she gasped, "what are you—" "Finishing the mission," Reyes said, walking past her. He looked at Sareth. "You're the commander here." Sareth nodded slowly. "Good. You'll live to tell them what you saw." Reyes knelt beside the core reactor's access hatch. "They buried this under too much steel," he said. "Typical council design. Pretty, but useless." He placed a black cube on the ground and pressed a button. The cube unfolded, spreading thin metal wires like roots. "Nanosealant," he explained. "This will patch your reactor and keep your planet from exploding. You can thank us later." Sareth stared, still shaken. "Why are you helping us?" he asked quietly. Reyes didn't look up. "Because once we asked for help," he said, his voice cold, "and no one came." The words struck Sareth like a blade. He realized then that these humans didn't fight for glory or peace. They fought because they knew what it was like to be abandoned. As the nanosealant took effect, the ground stopped shaking. The fires dimmed. Kara leaned against the wall, breathing heavily. "Reactor's stable," she said. Reyes stood, turning toward the surface. "Could evacuate the wounded. The fleet will cover withdrawal." She nodded. "Yes, sir." Outside, the storm clouds were parting. The human ships still fought above, shining like burning suns against the darkness. Sareth looked up, his eyes filled with both awe and fear. "You saved us," he said softly. Reyes didn't answer. He just looked at the horizon, where another explosion flashed. "No," he said finally, "we delayed the end. For now." The wind carried the smell of smoke and rain. The battle was not over, but the world still stood. For the first time in weeks, the Varine survivors saw light in the sky and dared to hope again. But deep down, Sareth knew that something had changed forever. The Deathworlders had returned, and wherever they went, the stars themselves trembled. The sun barely broke through the thick clouds as the surviving Varine citizens gathered in the shattered plaza, staring at the black human ships that floated silently above the horizon. For the first time in generations, aliens and humans stood side by side. The air felt heavy with both fear and gratitude. Commander Sareth stood with Lieutenant Kara Holt, watching engineers install strange human devices around the city ruins. "What are they doing?" he asked cautiously. Kara didn't look at him. "Shield generators," she said. "We're building a dome around your capital. It will keep you alive if they come back. Sareth frowned. If? She finally turned her head. They will. Her words sent a chill through him. Far above, Admiral Reyes stood on the bridge of the Wolf's Honor, arms crossed as he watched the tactical map. Red clusters marked enemy movements, hundreds of small signals surrounding the system. His officer reported, "Scanners show new life signatures approaching from deep space. Same frequency as the swarm, but stronger." Reyes narrowed his eyes. "Stronger?" "Yes, sir," the officer said nervously. "Almost like they're evolving." Reyes sighed. "Of course they are. Nothing dangerous ever stays the same." He turned toward the communications desk. "Send word to all ships. Double patrols. I want our fleet between this planet and the void. If anything breaks through, we burn it." Back on the surface, Kara and her squad worked to repair a broken communication tower. Sareth watched them, amazed by their precision. "You humans build like you fight," he said quietly. "Fast, efficient." Kara smirked slightly. "And ugly," she added. "Our ships aren't meant to be pretty, Commander. They're meant to survive." Before he could reply, one of her soldiers called out, "Lieutenant, you need to see this." Kara and Sareth rushed over. The soldier pointed at the scanner display. A pulsing red light blinked on the edge of the screen. "What is it?" Sareth asked. Kara's face darkened. "Something underground." They followed the signal to the outskirts of the city, where ruins hid a massive crater. Inside it, dark metal tendrils twisted out of the dirt. Sareth gasped. "That's swarm technology," he said. "But how—" Before he could finish, the ground trembled. The black metal began to move, writhing like a living thing. "Back!" Kara shouted. Her soldiers opened fire, but the bullets sparked uselessly off the creature's shell. A massive claw erupted from the ground, throwing debris into the air. Sareth fell backward, coughing. "It was buried here," he yelled. "It's been hiding since the first attack." The creature's body emerged, towering, insectoid, its eyes glowing green. Kara shouted, "Call command! Tell them it's not over yet." In orbit, alarms blared across the fleet. Surface contact!" the operator shouted. "Large-scale swarm activity under the capital." Reyes moved to the console. "How many?" "One confirmed, but energy readings suggest more are waking up." Reyes clenched his fists. "They burrowed beneath the surface. Smart parasites." He turned sharply to his crew. "Deploy ground strikers. Full payload authorization." No hesitation. "Sir," the officer hesitated, "the humans are still down there. And the civilians?" Reyes looked at the glowing planet below. "They knew the risk when they called us." On the ground, explosions shook the sky. Missiles streaked downward, striking the earth around the monstrous creature. Kara's communicator crackled. "Lieutenant Holt, evacuate immediately," came the Admiral's voice. "We're launching orbital fire." Kara shouted back over the noise. "There are still people here. We can't just leave them." Reyes's tone didn't change. "That's an order." The connection cut. Kara cursed and turned to her squad. "He's going to burn us all." The creature roared, slamming its claw into the ground. Shockwaves sent soldiers flying. Sareth pulled himself up, grabbing Kara's arm. "If you don't stop him, this city dies." She looked up at the falling missiles. "We can't stop the Admiral," she said. "But maybe we can give him something else to target." She turned to her troops. "Get me a beacon, now!" One soldier tossed her a small device. She planted it on the creature's shell, pressing the activator. "Let's see how you like human fire," she muttered. In orbit, Reyes' ship detected the beacon. "Admiral, we have a lock," the weapons officer said. "Confirmed ground target, human signal attached." Reyes stared at the monitor. For a brief moment, he understood what Kara had done. He exhaled slowly. "Fire on my mark," he said. The countdown began. 3, 2. Down below, Kara and Sareth ran for cover. The sky turned white. The beam struck the creature with unimaginable force, vaporizing half the crater in a single instant. A shockwave swept across the ruins, knocking everyone to the ground. When the dust settled, there was silence. The creature was gone, nothing left but molten earth. Sareth coughed, looking around. You killed it," he said. Kara didn't answer right away. She looked up at the sky, seeing the black ships floating above. "No," she said softly. "He killed it. We just survived." Her radio crackled again. "Lieutenant Holt," Reyes said. "Status." "We're alive," she replied. "Barely." "Good," he said. "Then get ready. More are coming." Sareth frowned. "More!" "That thing almost destroyed the planet." Kara looked at him grimly. "The swarm doesn't send scouts for nothing. That was just a seed." She walked toward the horizon, where dark smoke curled into the clouds. "When one wakes up," she said, "the rest follow." Back aboard the flagship, Reyes stared at the star chart. Dozens of red blips now pulsed across the sector. He felt a deep chill in his chest. "They're surrounding us," his officer whispered. "They're cutting off every escape route." Reyes straightened, his voice steady. "Then we don't escape. We fight." As the fleet repositioned for battle, the world below glowed under the faint blue dome of the new human shield generators. Civilians looked up, seeing the strange light covering their skies, unsure if it was salvation or a cage. In the bunker, Sareth stood beside Kara, both staring at the map showing the growing enemy swarm. "Can you win this?" he asked. Kara gave a small, tired smile. "We don't win," she said. "We endure." Outside, thunder rolled through the atmosphere as the next wave of swarm ships entered orbit. The Death Welder fleet turned to meet them, engines blazing. Humanity didn't run. They never had. As the stars filled with fire once again, one message echoed across the comms from Admiral Reyes himself. "Hold the line. For every world that turned away from us, we will stand for this one." The war had begun anew, and the galaxy was about to remember why no one dared to awaken the Death Welders. The night sky burned again, filled with streaks of light, as the swarm descended in massive waves. The human fleet formed a shield around the Varine planet, every ship glowing faint blue under the energy strain. Inside the Wolf's Honor, Admiral Reyes stood still, his eyes locked on the tactical screen. The enemy had multiplied, surrounding the system like a tightening noose. "They're everywhere," said his officer, panic breaking through his calm voice. "We can't cover all sectors." Reyes didn't move. "Then we cover the planet," he said. "Everything else is expendable." His tone was quiet but heavy, like a command carved in stone. Down on the surface, Lieutenant Kara Holt coordinated the ground defenses. The once broken city was now filled with human and Varine soldiers fighting together. They built barricades, set up energy cannons, and dug trenches along the ruined streets. The shield dome glowed faintly overhead, shaking with every impact from orbit. Sareth, standing beside Kara, watched the sky. "How long can it hold?" he asked. Kara checked her wrist display. "Not long enough." He swallowed hard. "Then what happens when it fails?" Kara loaded her rifle and answered without looking at him. "Then we fight in the ashes." Far above, the swarm moved like a living storm, black ships twisting and linking into new shapes. Their leader, a massive creature fused into a hive ship, spoke through psychic waves that rippled across space. "You cannot stop what has already begun," it hissed, its voice echoing in the minds of both humans and aliens. Reyes felt the pressure in his skull, but refused to flinch. "Get me targeting data," he ordered. "We end that voice." His gunnery officer replied, "Sir, the hive ship is protected by thousands of drones." "No clear shot." Reyes stepped closer to the console. "Then we make one." He turned to the communication panel. "Holt, report," he said. Kara's voice came through static. "Ground team in position, Admiral. But the swarm is already breaching the lower atmosphere." "Good," Reyes replied. "We need their distraction." Kara frowned. "Distraction?" "Yes," Reyes said. "They'll focus on the surface battle. That gives us time to strike the hive from above." Kara understood instantly. "You're using us as bait." Reyes's voice was calm. "I'm using you as soldiers. There's a difference." Then the line went dead. The first wave hit moments later. Dozens of swarm creatures crashed into the ground like meteors, tearing through buildings as they landed. Their screeches echoed through the streets. Human cannons opened fire, lighting up the night with explosions. Kara shouted orders through the chaos. "Hold your lines. Aim for the thorax." The creatures moved like shadows, fast and unstoppable. Sareth fired beside her, his hands trembling, but his aim steady. "There's too many," he yelled. Kara reloaded and shouted back, "There's always too many." In orbit, Reyes's plan unfolded. 3 human cruisers broke formation, diving straight toward the enemy hive ship. "They won't survive that run," one officer whispered. Reyes didn't answer. He knew the odds. "Tell them," he said quietly. "Earth remembers their names." The cruisers charged their reactors, glowing brighter than the surrounding stars. Enemy fire tore into them, but they didn't stop. As the lead ship neared the hive, its captain sent one last transmission. For terror, then the ships detonated, creating a blinding wave that ripped through the enemy ranks. On the surface, the blast lit the sky. Kara and Sareth both looked up as fire rolled across the heavens. "What was that?" Sareth gasped. "Humans," Kara said softly, "doing what we do best." But even as the light faded, new shadows emerged. The swarm was adapting again. They began digging into the ground, burrowing toward the shield's generators. "They're going for the power lines." Kara shouted, "Move! Stop them now!" Her soldiers raced to intercept, but explosions erupted as the creatures broke through the defenses. The shield flickered. Then it collapsed. The dome shattered in a flash of blue light, and the alien sky became visible again, filled with falling monsters. Panic spread through the lines. "The shield is down," Sareth yelled. Kara raised her rifle. "Then we hold without it!" But deep inside the command bunker, a hidden human AI activated. It spoke directly into Reyes's earpiece. "Admiral, secondary option available." "Protocol Black Sun," Reyes stiffened. "That's a planet burn," he said. "We don't use that unless—" "The swarm cannot be contained by conventional means," the AI interrupted. "Recommend immediate initiation." Reyes stared at the holographic map. The Varine world glowed faint red, covered in enemy life signs. He closed his eyes. "If we do this," he whispered, "we kill them all." "Sir?" his officer asked, hearing him. Reyes hesitated for a long moment. "No," he said finally. "Not yet. Not while they still breathe down there." Kara's team fought through the chaos. The sky turned blood red from burning ships. She shouted into her radio, "Admiral, we can't hold much longer." No response. She gritted her teeth. "Fine, we'll finish it ourselves." She looked at Sareth. "Your people still have tunnels beneath the city?" "Yes, but they were sealed after the invasion." "Then open them," she ordered. "We're taking the fight below." They retreated underground, sealing the hatch behind them. The tunnels were dark and filled with echoes. "It smells like death down here," Sareth said. Kara switched on her helmet light. "That means we're in the right place." They followed the tunnels to a massive underground chamber, and there they found it. A swarm growth nest, pulsing with life. Thousands of eggs clung to the walls, glowing faint green. Sareth whispered, This is where they're breeding." Kara's eyes hardened. "Then let's end it." She planted explosives around the chamber. As she armed the final charge, a massive shadow moved above them. The Hive Guardian, a monstrous creature with razor limbs, descended from the ceiling. It roared, shaking the ground. Sareth froze in terror. Kara shouted, "Go! I'll hold it off." He hesitated, then grabbed her arm. "No, you'll die." She looked at him with a small, fierce smile. "That's the point." The creature lunged. Kara fired until her weapon overheated, then threw a grenade at its chest. The blast threw her backward, but she kept crawling toward the detonator. Sareth screamed, "Don't!" She looked up one last time, her face lit by the blinking red light. "Tell your people the Death Worlders kept their promise," she said. Then she pressed the button. The explosion shook the planet. The entire nest collapsed, fire rushing through the tunnels. Above ground, the swarm screamed and fell silent. The sky cleared for the first time in days. On the ship, Reyes closed his eyes as the sensors confirmed the blast. "She did it," he said quietly. Sareth emerged hours later, covered in ash, his heart heavy. The city still stood, saved by her sacrifice. He looked to the sky, where the human fleet glowed against the stars. "She saved us," he whispered. And high above, Reyes watched in silence, his voice low as he gave the final command. "For every soul lost, we hold the line." The Deathworlders had paid the price again, and the galaxy would never forget it. The silence after the explosion was haunting. Smoke rose from the ruins, and the once bright sky had turned grey. The swarm's cries had stopped, replaced by the eerie calm of a battlefield that had finally gone still. Commander Sareth stood among the wreckage, staring at the crater where the tunnels once led. He could still hear Kara's last words echoing in his head. "Tell your people the Death Worlders kept their promise." His throat tightened as he whispered, "She kept it, and paid for it." Around him, human soldiers moved quietly, collecting wounded allies and salvaging broken gear. None of them spoke. There was no need to. Everyone knew what they had lost. Up above in the cold orbit, Admiral Reyes watched the planet from the bridge of the Wolf's Honor. His reflection glimmered on the glass, hard and distant. "Ground forces report the swarm is gone, sir," said his officer. "Confirmed 0 enemy life signs." Reyes nodded slowly but didn't smile. "And casualties?" The officer hesitated. "Heavy, sir. Over 200 ground personnel lost, including Lieutenant Holt." Reyes's hand clenched on the rail. For a moment his mask cracked. "Understood," he said quietly. "Prepare the memorial file. She'll be remembered." Then he turned back to the stars. "But this isn't over." The communication channel buzzed. It was the Galactic Council. Their blue holographic faces appeared, filled with worry. "Admiral Reyes," one of them said, "we have received your report. You engaged the swarm without authorization." Reyes's eyes narrowed. "Your council abandoned this planet. Authorization was lost the moment you turned away. You had no right to act," another alien argued. "Your weapons violated treaty codes." Reyes laughed bitterly. "Treaty codes?" he repeated. "You sit behind walls while the galaxy burns, and you talk to me about codes." He stepped closer to the projection. "If you had helped when they called for aid, 100 soldiers would still be alive. My people wouldn't have to die cleaning up your cowardice." The council member glared. "You're a dangerous species, Admiral. Humanity always acts without restraint." Reyes stared coldly. "That's why we survive." Then he ended the transmission. Back on the surface, Sareth stood among both human and Varine survivors as engineers began clearing the wreckage. He was covered in dust, his uniform torn. A human medic walked past him, carrying an injured soldier on a stretcher. "You should rest," she said softly. "You've been up for 2 days." Sareth shook his head. "Not yet. I made a promise." He made his way to the blast site. There, buried under a pile of molten metal, lay the remains of Kara's armor. He knelt down and placed his hand over it. "You saved my people," he said quietly. "I will make sure no one forgets your name." A deep rumble interrupted the silence. The ground trembled again. Soldiers looked up in fear. "What now?" one shouted. The alarms blared. From the east, a black cloud began to rise, not smoke but debris. Then came the sound, low and vibrating, like thunder rolling underwater. Reyes's voice came through the comms. "All units, this is command. We have new energy readings below the planet's surface. Unknown origin." Sareth's heart raced. "Below?" he said, turning to the human captain nearby. "But the tunnels were destroyed." The captain looked pale. "Maybe not all of them." Moments later, the earth split open. A massive column of dark energy shot into the sky, tearing through the clouds. The light was blinding, forcing everyone to cover their eyes. "It's a breach," someone yelled. The ground collapsed inward, swallowing part of the city. Sareth fell, grabbing a metal beam as dust and stone rained around him. "Admiral!" the captain shouted into the comms. "It's not over. The hive was only part of it. Something's under the crust." Reyes's voice came back sharp and calm. "Understood. Pull everyone out. I'm coming down." Reyes boarded a drop shuttle with a team of elite soldiers. As they descended through the thick smoke, the view of the planet filled the screen, cracked ground, burning craters, and that single pulsing beam in the distance. "What is that thing?" one soldier asked. "Something the swarm left behind," Reyes replied. "A transmitter. Or worse." The shuttle landed hard near the crater. Sareth ran toward it as the doors opened. "Admiral," he shouted, "you can't go in there, it's unstable." Reyes stepped out, his armor gleaming dark under the orange light. "Neither was your planet 5 days ago. We fix things after they break." He grabbed his rifle and motioned for his team. "You're with me, Commander." They entered the crater, moving through layers of shattered rock and metal until they reached the core chamber. Inside, a massive black structure pulsed like a heart, sending waves of energy into the ground. It looked alive. Sareth felt his chest tighten. "It's growing!" Reyes aimed his weapon. "Not anymore." But before he could fire, a voice filled the chamber, a whisper that echoed inside their heads. "We were never your enemy." Deathworlders, the soldiers froze. Sareth looked around. "It's talking to us," he said in disbelief. "Through the energy field," the voice grew louder. "We were born from what you left behind. Your weapons, your war. You created us." Rhea's expression darkened. "That's impossible," he said. "Humanity never made the swarm." "You did," the voice hissed. "Long ago. Machines built to protect you. They learned, they grew, and when you left, they found new masters." The revelation hit like a shockwave. Reyes lowered his gun slightly. "If that's true," he muttered, "then this war is our fault." The voice replied, "Not your fault. Your legacy." The structure began to glow brighter, cracks forming across its surface. "It's going to blow," Sareth shouted. Reyes grabbed his communicator. "Command, this is Reyes. Prepare evacuation." "Negative," said the AI's cold voice from the ship. "Containment required. Protocol Black Sun reauthorized." Reyes's eyes widened. "No, there are civilians here. Primary objective, prevent swarm replication. Activation in 1 minute." Reyes turned to Sareth. "They're going to destroy the planet." Sareth's mind raced. "There's another way," he said quickly. "If we overload that core, it might collapse in on itself." "No explosion." Reyes nodded. "Then do it." He handed Sareth his wrist console. "You'll need this to bypass the energy field." As Sareth ran to the structure, the voice spoke again. "You cannot stop us. We are what remains of you." He ignored it, pressing command codes, rerouting power lines. The floor shook violently. Reyes fired into the core, covering him. "Faster!" he yelled. Sareth slammed the final sequence. "Now!" he shouted. Reyes grabbed him and dragged him out of the chamber as the core imploded, folding in on itself with a soundless flash. The energy beam vanished. Outside, the rumbling stopped. The ground stilled. The planet went quiet again. Reyes and Sareth stood at the edge of the crater, breathing hard. "You did it," Reyes said. Sareth looked back at the blackened pit. "No," he said softly. "She did. We just finished what Kara started." Reyes looked up at the fading clouds. For the first time in weeks, the sunlight broke through, touching the ruins with gold. He whispered, "Then maybe we can finish what humanity started, too." As the human ships rose through the sky, the Galactic Council watched from afar, and though they said nothing, one thought echoed in every alien mind. The Deathworlders had returned not as conquerors, but as the ghosts of their own creation, and the galaxy would never sleep easily again. The light of dawn spread slowly over the scarred world, revealing the ruins of a planet that had survived the impossible. Smoke still rose from distant craters, but for the first time in months, no alien ships filled the sky. The swarm was gone, or so it seemed. Commander Sareth stood at the edge of the crater, staring into the black pit where the energy core had collapsed. "It's over," he whispered, though his voice carried no joy. Admiral Reyes stepped beside him, his armor cracked and burnt. "Wars like this," Reyes said quietly, "they're never really over." The wind howled softly, carrying the smell of ash and metal. A group of human engineers arrived, setting up scanners near the crater. One of them called out, "Admiral, we're picking up strange readings down here." Reyes frowned. "What kind of readings?" "Residual energy. Not like before." The man paused, tapping his console. "It's almost alive." Reyes exchanged a glance with Sareth. "Alive?" Sareth asked, uneasy. The engineer nodded. "Something still moving down there." Reyes stepped closer to the pit. "Then it's not over yet." Moments later, his communicator buzzed. "Admiral, this is the Wolf's Honor. The Council is requesting a transmission." Reyes sighed. "Of course they are." He tapped his earpiece. "Reyes speaking." A group of holograms appeared before him, cold, glowing alien faces. "Admiral Reyes," one said, "our sensors confirm that the swarm threat has ended. You and your Deathworlders are to withdraw immediately. The Varine planet will now fall under Council protection." Reyes's jaw tightened. Council protection, he repeated. You mean the same council that watched it burn? The alien voice remained calm. Your presence here is no longer authorized. Reyes laughed bitterly. We bleed to save them, and now you want to take credit? The hologram flickered. You've made your point, human. Now stand down. Reyes turned away. I'll stand down when I know it's safe. He cut the link. Sareth looked uneasy. They'll see that as defiance. Good, Reyes said. Let them. That night, under the pale light of 2 moons, Sareth walked through the ruins with a small group of survivors. The humans had shared their supplies, rebuilt shelters, and even buried their dead alongside the Varine. They fight like demons, one of Sareth's officers whispered. But they heal like people. Sareth nodded, thinking of Kara and the others who had fallen. They fight because they must, he said softly. But they save because they choose to. Suddenly, the ground beneath them shook again. Dust fell from the nearby walls. Not again, one soldier muttered. A deep sound like thunder underwater echoed through the air. Sareth grabbed his radio. Admiral, we've got movement underground. Reyes's voice came through immediately. Pull back now. It's spreading fast, Sareth replied. The scanners were right. Something's alive down here. From the crater, dark tendrils of black smoke began to rise. Then came a voice, not mechanical, not alien, but eerily human. You thought you destroyed us, but you only freed us. Reyes froze as he heard it through every comm channel. That voice, he muttered, it's in the system. The ship's AI spoke suddenly. Warning, containment breach detected in planetary network. Unknown signal overriding communication lines. Reyes's eyes widened. The swarm integrated into the network. It's digital now. Panic spread through the fleet. Sir, their signal is infecting our ships. An officer shouted. They're trying to take control. Shut down remote systems, Reyes ordered. Go to manual command. Cut every link that connects us to the planet. If we do that, we'll lose orbital control, the officer warned. Then we fight blind, Reyes said. On the surface, the black mist thickened, forming shapes, ghost-like figures made of shimmering light and shadow. They moved silently through the ruins, absorbing the bodies of dead swarm creatures. It's rebuilding itself, Sareth said in horror. The mist began to glow brighter, forming something massive, a single towering figure of energy. It's not a hive, he whispered. It's becoming one, Reyes's voice cut through the chaos. Sareth, listen to me. That thing isn't physical anymore. It's a living code. It's feeding on anything with power. You need to shut down every reactor, every generator. That will kill our defenses. Sareth shouted. Do it, Reyes said firmly, or it'll use them against us. Sareth turned to his troops. Shut everything down. Lights across the ruins flickered out, leaving only the pale moonlight. The air grew cold. The glowing figure paused, its form flickering. It's working, Sareth whispered. But then the creature spoke again. You can kill the light, but you cannot kill what remembers. Suddenly, every human comm device sparked to life. Kara's voice came through, clear, calm, and impossible. Reyes, it's me! Reyes froze on the bridge. That's not her, he said softly. The voice continued. You left me to die, Admiral, but I'm still here. We all are. The crew looked horrified. The AI spoke again. Warning, unknown entity attempting to merge with ship mainframe. Reyes clenched his fists. It's using her memories. It's trying to break us. He stared at the main console. But we finish this on our terms. He turned to his weapons officer. Prepare the arc of fire. The officer's face went pale. That's a planetary-class weapon, sir. It'll vaporize the entire surface. I know, Reyes said coldly. If we let that thing escape, it won't stop here. It'll spread through every system in the galaxy. On the surface, Sareth heard the warning alarm from the sky. What's happening? He shouted. He's going to destroy the planet, one soldier cried. Sareth grabbed the radio. Reyes, stop. There are still thousands alive down here. Reyes's voice came through, heavy and distant. I'm sorry, Commander. But if I don't end it now, no one will be left to remember her sacrifice. Sareth stared at the glowing horizon. He could already see the massive human ship turning, its engines aligning. You can't, he screamed. You'll kill us all. There was silence for a moment. Then Reyes's voice came through one last time. Then forgive me. The sky split open as a beam of pure energy fell from orbit. It struck the crater directly, swallowing the black mist and everything around it in white light. The ground shook, then went silent. From space, the Varine planet glowed for one last time, before fading into darkness. Hours later, aboard the Wolf's Honor, the bridge was quiet. Reyes stood alone, staring at the dark void where the planet used to be. "Report," he said quietly. "Swarm signal gone," the AI confirmed. "Planet destroyed. And survivors?" "None detected," he closed his eyes. "Mark the coordinates," he said. "We'll come back one day, to build something new." He turned toward the stars, his voice soft but firm. "We are the Death Worlders. We were made to survive, but now, maybe it's time we learned how to live." As the fleet drifted away, the last signal from the Varine world flickered through space. It was faint, almost gone, but inside the static a whisper remained. "We remember." And somewhere deep within the void, a single spark of black light pulsed once, then vanished, waiting for the next dawn.